Welcome back to B&G Hockey, where it's always black and gold. I try to be one of those guys who doesn't see a player become available and immediately think they're coming to my team. But with this particular player, I actually think it would be a really good fit. Let's talk about it. The Philadelphia Flyers made some pretty big hockey headlines today when they waived defenseman Shayne Gostisbehere. We all know his name because of his fantastic 2017-18 NHL season when he had 65 points in 78 games. Now, since then, his production has gone down and down and down, and it really just keeps getting worse, and he's never been good in his own end. So when you start to see that, and given the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers have been struggling recently, it doesn't become too much of a surprise, especially when you add the level of play he's at now to his cap hit. He's making $4.5 million this year and 2 more years after that. And with the production he's giving you now and the defensive play in his own end, he's really not worth that cap hit. But once you start to dig a little deeper into the stats and realize his current situation, he might be worth that cap hit if he goes to another team. Gostisbehere has slowly been falling out of favor with the Philadelphia Flyers for quite some time now. There was so much hype about this guy. He made Team North America with some other great young stars. He had a couple of really good seasons, and now it's really been disappointing, and they have some other young defensemen like Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, who have blown by him on the depth chart. And I understand, as I said before, he's not great in his own end, and the numbers aren't what they used to be, but they're still pretty good, and it's really frustrating to be Gostisbehere sometimes. He'll start on the top unit and the top power play and get big minutes, and then the next night he's scratched. What does that do for a player mentally? How is he going to get back on track if you're never really giving him that chance? And the coach really doesn't like this player. It's apparent. And I think a big factor in Gostisbehere getting back to anything close to what he used to be is a change of scenery. Now we're going to start to tie in the Boston Bruins here. If you look at Gostisbehere's stats, as I said, the defensive stats aren't great. I want to keep saying that. I feel like the comment section is just going to be full of people telling me he can't play defense. I know he can't play defense, but I want the Bruins to bring him in to help with the offense. If you've watched the Bruins recently, they cannot score goals. Shayne Gostisbehere has 5 goals, and I'm going to tell you a fact that is going to blow your mind as a Bruins fan. He would be tied for 6 on the Bruins in goals with Charlie Coyle, and he has more goals than Jake DeBrusk, who I realize has been injured in COVID protocol, but still pretty sad. David Krejci, who's your highest paid player and second line center, getting big power play time as well. Charlie McAvoy, who's your stud defenseman. I'm not holding that against McAvoy. I think he could win the Norris this season, but still, Gostisbehere has more goals, and he would lead all defensemen in goals. That's pretty good. And as far as his points go, he has 11. He'd be tied with Craig Smith for 7th on the team in total points. When you start to see that, you realize that Gostisbehere would be a pretty good fit here. And he's one of the better power play quarterbacks, even when he's struggling. If you put him on a top power play with guys like Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron, he could be the next Torrey Krug. Now, I think Matt Grzelcyk has been fantastic. I'm a big Grzelcyk guy. I think he can do everything that Krug does. But now you have both Grzelcyk and Gostisbehere. Maybe one of them plays with McAvoy at the point on the second unit. You just have options there, but this is another guy who can help drive offense from the back end and gives you a little bit of a different look. I think if you paired him up with Carlo, that would be a really nice 1-2 punch. I think the McAvoy-Grzelcyk pair has been fantastic, so I would like to keep them together. And then a guy like Lozon moves down, Zaboral moves down. Even one of them maybe gets scratched. You could put them in. If you want to scratch Shayne Gostisbehere, I guess that would be fine, but I think that's one of the bigger problems with the Flyers. It just gives you options, and I think we can all agree that the Bruins need some help there on the left side, even though the young players have stepped up and been pretty good this season. So maybe I haven't convinced you that Shayne Gostisbehere can help drive the Bruins offense and give them more depth on the left side of their defense. Another good thing about him is his contract was front-loaded, so the real money they have to pay him is less than his actual cap hit. That's something that you can convince the Jacobs to do. They always love to save money. And another way he can help the Bruins quite a bit is just another option for the Seattle Kraken. I haven't talked about it too much on this channel. As the expansion draft gets closer, I'll do some of those videos speculating on who the Bruins could lose. It's going to be a good player, but every team loses a good player. But this would be really interesting. If the Bruins are worried about losing some of their younger defensemen or even some of their younger forwards, you can throw Shayne Gostisbehere out there. If he's able to restart his career with the Bruins, as I said before, his cap hit really isn't that bad if he gets back to that 50, 60-point guy. And maybe the Kraken would take a stab at him to be their top power play guy. And maybe that means you get to keep a Grzelcyk or a Lozon or one of your younger players up front. Trent Frederick might be exposed. who really knows? It just gives you another guy that you could throw out there that might entice the Kraken, and then you can keep your own guys. Anytime you can add a player for nothing, I definitely think the team should look into that. I should also mention that former Bruin Nick Holden was waived today. He's not as exciting as Shayne Gostisbehere name-wise, but he's a pretty solid NHL defenseman. He's a left-shot guy, familiar with the team. Maybe you bring him in. These are the kind of guys that you give up picks and prospects for at the trade deadline anyway. I would much rather see the Bruins add one of them for free and then put in all their trade chips and go after a winger at the trade deadline. I think they need a lot more help up front than they do the back end, which is surprising because at the beginning you thought they were stronger up front and worse on the back end, but that really hasn't been the case. The back end has been really solid even through all those injuries, and up front we can't score. So I would really much rather see the Bruins go after a forward than a defenseman. Well, why not get both here? You can add one for free and then go trade for somebody up front. So let me know your thoughts. I should mention that there's a lot of really bad teams, the Red Wings, the Ducks, the Senators, the Sabres, who could really use these guys, and they might claim them and scoop them up before the Bruins even have a chance. And there is some speculation out there that none of them will get claimed. We've seen some pretty big names go through waivers this season, and everybody thought they were going to get picked up, and then they didn't. And with Shayne Gostisbehere's struggles in his own end and his pretty high cap hit for how he's playing right now, he might not get claimed at all, but I think he would be a perfect fit with the Boston Bruins. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.